Zachary Levi just sat down for an interview with Variety, and this was authored by the same woman that took down Rachel Zegler last year. Or no, was that earlier this year?
Earlier this year.
Right after the release of Snow White, it seemed like a lot of establishment outlets were turning against Rachel Zegler after months, if not years, of defending her bullshit behavior. And I think that the turning point was her support, her vocal support for Palestine and her continued social media posts about it. Because there were a lot of people in Hollywood, in high up places, who did not like that specific political take of hers, and they wanted to take her down specifically over that conundrum. But can you read it?
Yeah, Value in You says, Brett, Mary, if each of you could produce a big budget movie, what would it be about? Thanks for all you do.
A big budget movie.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I don't care about stunts or the visuals, so.
Something in line with...
I'd rather do a documentary.
Something in line with James Bond. Maybe specifically somebody from the NSA rather than the CIA.
I'd rather do a documentary or a reality TV show. I'd rather use all of the budget toward a reality TV show that's just the most insane thing you've ever seen.
I would like to split the difference somewhere between James Bond, Jason Bourne, and Mission Impossible and find a middle ground there. Maybe closer to the cerebral style of Mission Impossible 1 and some of the storylines from something like Jason Bourne with none of the shaky cam. Maybe take the camera and effects from like the opening stunt scenes of a James Bond movie or the action scenes of a John Wick and do something like that.
I'm convinced they did the shaky cam in Jason Bourne just so that he wouldn't have to learn the choreography super well.
I mean, in a lot of ways. I mean, in the first movie, it worked because it kind of sped up the pace and made it more frenetic. But after that, you just want to lose your lunch.
So in this interview, Zachary Levi addressed his experience working with Rachel Zegler on Shazam. And they asked questions of a lot of people who have worked with Zachary Levi, people who are politically opposed to him, who still see the humanity in him, are willing to defend his character on a public platform like this.
I saw a gendered breakdown between that. So the men in his life, the men that he knew, seemed to be very willing to see him as a three-dimensional person. They mentioned that Josh Schwartz, who was one of the creators of Chuck, was still on very good terms with him. And was it Guy Moshe was the directed one of his last movies. Kind of spoke about what he was going through while making that movie as people were kind of coming down on him, and spoke very highly about his sticking to his guns and not being willing to compromise his beliefs just because everybody's telling him differently, and how that used to be something that was celebrated in that industry. And then Duncan McNeil, who I believe was like one of the prolific directors of Chuck.
Yeah.
Spoke about how he disagrees with him vehemently. Like, he had to like preface it. He's like, I disagree with him on a lot of things, but he also says he's also more of a bleeding heart liberal than me on a lot of issues and walks the walk better than I ever could. But then the women, the Lauren Benatti and Rachel Zegler, were the ones who seemed to be more willing to dehumanize him for his political views, or at the very least kind of broad brush him in a way that don't really lend to some type of humanity.
If I recall the previous female co-star, what was her name?
In what?
The one you just mentioned.
Lauren Benatti?
Yeah, she was mad at Zachary Levi for implying that a co-star's cancer... actually, I think that this co-star died of cancer. He seemed to post something implying that the COVID vaccine was related to his death, which is probably something he deserves to be called out for, because that's insensitive to make a speculation like that.
But she said, she goes, but I never liked him.
Yeah, she just kind of threw in the insult that she was wanting to throw in there anyway.
That is worthy of critique, though.
But back in November, you might recall Rachel Zegler being extremely distraught over the result of the election. And she posted an infamous Instagram story rant where she said that she hopes Trump supporters never know peace. And all of these other expletives. She was then forced to issue a formal apology, and this was kind of the nail in the coffin for Snow White, if it wasn't already dead. And they asked Zachary Levi about Rachel Zegler, saying that she hopes Trump supporters, like himself, never know peace. And this was his extremely media-trained, charitable dunk issued to Rachel Zegler. I am one of those people, obviously, but I think we have got to recognize that a lot of times people's decisions are predicated upon the bad information that they're being fed on a regular basis. So should I hate her because she's downstream of all these voices that are telling her that Trump is Hitler and the people who vote for him are Nazis? She's a really talented girl, and I do think that she wants the best for the world deep down.
If you've ever followed him on X, he's an extremely positive person, and even his criticisms of things tend to be kind of bookended by positivity.
It's giving Justin Baldoni in the worst way possible.
I disagree. No. He's Justin Baldoni isn't going to talk about those type of large scale issues in an overly positive way. I've never seen him actually talk about anything political in that nature.
No, not politically. I just mean like their personalities seem very similar.
I mean, I don't see it.
I bet Justin Baldoni is going to do something at Zachary Levi's new studio.
I don't think
that was another
focus
focus of the Variety interview. They're asking him about his plans for a brand new Hollywood studio outside of Hollywood, based in Austin, Texas. And I went to the landing page for investors. So this is not really a reality quite yet, but they have renderings of what he wants it all to look like. It's going to include a couple of huge sound stages and a boutique hotel and cabins for talent and crew to live in with their families and a farm-to-table restaurant.
He talks about
countless amenities, so they can basically all live on this compound to make movies outside of Hollywood.
It's very much a big pitch. The whole thing is very much a big pitch, what he's selling on the website.
Yeah, but that's the point. You know, when you go to this website, you're seeing all of the plans, and he's trying to sell this as an idea to people who could make it a reality because he doesn't have the investment quite yet. But I looked at it, and the description is just giving cult vibes.
There was one word specifically that I would agree with you on.
Wildwood, but it's spelled W-Y-L-D, wood. Okay. So this is a new outpost of Hollywood, perhaps. It's a movement toward meaningful creation, deep community, and intentional living. Nestled on 75 acres of thoughtfully preserved land, Wildwood will be a one-of-a-kind creative studio and mixed-use sanctuary designed to support artists, innovators, and seekers of well-being. That sounds like a cult.
The Seekers. Well, here's the thing.
Sounds like a cult.
Here's the thing. He is actually reminiscent of Hollywood of old, which is he's a crunchy in a lot of ways. He's a health nut crunchy who just happens to disagree with them on certain aspects of politics because the left is no longer crunchy. The left is like, I want to eat all the food dyes and let the pharmaceutical industry try to heal me.
Yeah.
So he's kind of incongruous with the rest of the business. What I thought funny is they mentioned about a rise of heterodox voices, and it's almost a misnomer because there's probably more heterodox people than not in that industry. They just don't care enough to talk about it because they don't think about it.
It's not that they don't care. I think it's because they're afraid, and he said that in this interview. I want to go into his comment because the reason why Zachary Levi was basically outcast from Hollywood was because he said that he was it something about Pfizer being a danger to the world.
He was I mean, if we're going to use the language they use in here, he was vaccine skeptical, which makes sense because you can't even really talk about that stuff on here.
Well, that was a
hold please.
Thank you.
Okay. Continue.
The post wasn't about vaccines, though. The original post he made that got him in trouble wasn't actually about vaccines or COVID.
He was always seen that way, though, because he was an RFK guy.
That was before he even supported RFK.
Go on.
Do you remember how it happened?
What
It was before he started supporting RFK.
Which poster are you talking about?
That was the first
one
post that he made.
Pfizer is a real danger to the world.
In 2021.
Yeah.
So that was before RFK.
I mean, that was around
like
that
way
was when
long ago.
That was when Letitia Wright was talking about it.
Or no, it was in 2023.
Yeah. And but even before that, they mentioned Evangeline Lilly and Letitia Wright, who got hate from their own industry for being skeptical of what was going on during COVID.
So here's what he said about feeling Hollywood's wrath after his vaccine skeptic remarks. I know that there are people that would prefer not to work with me now because of my opinions. My team has let me know. They haven't given me any specific names. I can't relate. I would be asking for every...
You'd want to know all the names?
I would have a shit list. But there are people who prefer not to work with me at this time. And it's unfortunate. I knew that was probably going to happen. I didn't make this decision blindly or casually. And then he said there are more industry figures than we're aware who did vote for Trump or just have heterodox opinions, as he said, and they're not willing to talk about it. He said, I know it to be true because I've gotten messages from lots of people who I won't name, but who were very grateful to me for taking the stand I took. And they'd tell me, I want to do that, but I'm afraid. And I would tell them, listen, you're on your journey. I'm on my journey. You've got to keep trusting God. And if you feel compelled to step out in that way, then do it boldly and know that you're going to be okay. And if you don't feel that conviction yet, then don't.
Well, here's the thing with that. He'd already made a good amount of his money by that point. So it's a little bit different. Also, being heterodox and speaking out is actually not the best option, because most of the time, if you're going to end up down the right-wing pipeline, you're going to get pigeonholed and you're going to have to work and make movies at the Daily Wire and music videos with Kid Rock. You're not going to have the support you did before. It doesn't help you to be middle of the road because you won't get the support of either side, but you'll anger everyone. Or at the very least, you'll anger the left. Probably
Did I sense some Roseanne Barr shade?
From me? I wasn't even thinking of Roseanne Barr.
Okay.
I mean, she got in trouble for other reasons.
She was in a Tom McDonald music video.
But the point is that once you come out against any of their sacred cows, and one of those is pharmaceuticals these days, you're going to be pigeonholed. And if you don't explicitly fit into that worldview, then you're kind of screwed. Mm-hmm. Like, is that what you want? Do you want to go make movies, like right-wing movies? Do you want to be in Reagan 2, Electric Boogaloo? Or do you want to keep working in your industry? Most people don't even vote in this country. Half this country doesn't even vote. I'd be willing to bet that most actors that aren't overly opinionated don't even care. They just want to keep working. And even if there is one issue that they do care a little bit about, is it really worth speaking up and ruining your career because you had to say something about whether Johnson & Johnson or Moderna are bad, as if everybody doesn't already know that.
Well, the vaccine issue, I think, was more relevant to them in their ability to work, obviously, because people were unable to take jobs in Hollywood based on their vaccination status. So,
I mean, that was different at the time.
That's different than, like, I don't support, like, what would they even say? Like, gun control. Like, you don't need to talk about gun control one way or the other in Hollywood. You're not being compelled. But the vaccination issue was relevant to their actual ability to get roles. So.
I mean, it even came up when we were talking about Tom Cruise the other day. They shared the video of him yelling at somebody shared the video of him yelling at the people on the crew for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning because they were not following the mask protocols.
Slip under their nose.
And the point was that it's not that he was a diehard about masks. It's that he's producing this movie. It's costing him millions of dollars, and they're on a raise. Like the studio, the government is looking for any reason to shut these people down, and they're putting everybody's jobs at risk.
Right.
So when tensions are that high, speaking out at all is a big deal. So it makes sense that the issue that Zachary Levi seems to care the most about is the one he's willing to take the biggest risk on to say something.
He also added here, while there are some people who might prefer not to work with me anymore, there's a lot of people on that side of the political spectrum who are even more inclined to hire me or want to do business with me because, quote, I need some people who voted another way. They see that what I did was a great risk, and they were like, you know what? I give you props for that because that's not an easy thing to do, and I appreciate that. I don't know how many people there are in Hollywood who are on the left that see Zachary Levi's risk-taking and they respect it.
Yeah.
Most of them probably think that he's a traitor to democracy or something like that.
There's a
But
20 there.
The reality is he's just he's a granola lib who just wants us all to eat beef tallow and sing Kumbaya and be happy.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.